Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Hollywood After Dark, the only late-night movie commentary podcast show. Shit-flinging, humor-filled, disgusting, depraved terribleness out there. Here it is, the 15th of November, 2022, halfway through the month, folks. Let's dive into the show tonight because I guess there's not going to be 4 Batman anymore. Whatever the hell that means, Hollywood After Dark. Let's fucking go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome back to the show. It's Tuesday night. I think it is Tuesday. I don't know. My day is absolutely just bonkers. I'm not sleeping very well, unfortunately, so tonight will not be that long of a show. We'll try to keep it about an hour if humanly possible. Not a lot going on, movie news-wise and whatever, and I'm trying to stay away from a certain bit of drama that we've been talking about the last couple nights here on the show. Never mind some of the more interesting developments that have come out of that. But if you're looking for current content updates about Andy Masturbator, be sure to head on over to Saggy Melons, that's Melonz, in order to be able to catch up on all the what to do involving El Senor Jerks a Lot. And I think that's where we're going to leave that one right there. Rational here popping up a $2 super chat right off the bat. Thank you, buddy. It says Andor on Freeform just doesn't seem right. I don't know, man. I don't know. Andor on Freeform seems perfectly fine. It's the first 2 episodes. They're relatively bloodless. There's no blood. This is relatively violence free. My problem, though, my absolute worry about that is the fact that when you think about the idea surrounding those first couple episodes of Andor, I do think it needs episode 3 to tie it all together. The first couple episodes, while not sloggy, while not boring, while not unentertaining, or any of the adjectives people might try to use to describe something like that they feel like it's not what they want it to be. The show has a bit of a slower build, but it starts building and rising and growing. And oh my God, tonight, guys, it's a penultimate episode, right? I'm excited. I am. I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. Look, I talked about this last night. I meant to turn it into its own little video thing. I just didn't do it. A big thing with going to FX and to ABC and to Freeform and to Hulu is that it's going to allow more people to see what it is. People who may not see that there is a lot of craziness that is happening, or that may not see that there's like more to the Star Wars stuff that's going on. I think it's a good move. I think it's a really, really, really good move. Everything else. So thank you for that one. Also, you guys are kicking off right off the bat. Holy crap. Reed here with $10, dude. Thank you so much. Says, 3rd day back from my trip. I went to Kentucky and Memphis, Tennessee. Really enjoyed Waverly Hills, Graceland. Was cool as well as seeing Sun Studios and Abraham Lincoln's first and second homes. Nice, man. That's cool. I'm glad you had a lot of fun. I hope to one day tour the South during a time when maybe civil unrest is not as on the horizon. Oh my God. Good thing you're back now, man. Look, okay. I don't want to wax political, but we kind of, Trump announced a 2024 run tonight in one of the most boring speeches I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, it was just a stump speech for his own campaign rallies. It was the same thing he says across the board. I was actually watching some of the QAnon chatter online, and the QAnon chatter was just like, this is boring. We've heard this before. Where's something new? This is terrible. So we have now another couple years of this shit. So buckle up, Buttercup's going to be a wild ride. But as we enter into the final stretch of the term, get to the last 2 years of Biden's first term, whether or not he wins the second, that's going to be up in the air. I think we can agree that we're kind of over the hump of COVID, right? Still out there, still something to worry about. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't take precautions. Don't look after yourself. Don't be all in it to win it for your own personal safety, health, and that of your family, friends, and loved ones. Remember when COVID went to cats? That was the weirdest fucking thing. Jesus Christ. No, I'm serious. Does anyone remember in the early days of COVID when there were stories like, your cat can catch COVID? Like, fuck, oh my God, my cat can catch COVID. What? No, how is that even a thing? Yeah, dogs caught COVID. You know what? I think everyone caught COVID. But you're still here. You're still listening to the show. For that, I really appreciate it. But anyway, like I said, guys, it's going to be a wild ride for the next couple years, but it will be a lot of fun movie talk wise, because we're going to have a lot of fun here on the show. What I've been kind of toying with the idea is doing a couple shorter videos in the daytime, just audio. Think comic book cast, but far more entertaining, enlightening, and, informational based. And then just kind of firing up a live stream and having it just be more freeform. The plotting of the live streams is fun. I like planning out a show, but it becomes just so much work that I'm usually not able to get to until like a half hour before showtime, especially if I'm trying to go out and do delivery driving and things like that. So, and I have put in a couple job applications at certain places. So if that comes through and I get a gig at one of those places, then everything's going to change up. But if I have a few minutes to kind of fire off a couple videos during the day when people are talking about something that's new, it would work to my benefit. It might work to your benefit, and then give us something to kind of extrapolate on here at night for a more fun, laid back, loose conversation. Because I think that's just more where I'm at. I don't want structure. I don't like structure. I'm not a structured individual. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like a shorts and flip flops and winter kind of guy. I'm like a, zig when people want to zag sort of thing. And I just want more freeform, more fun. That's where I'm at personally. And I think some conversations I had today with certain people about the drama in this space, and they're like, I feel trapped, I feel stuck, and they just want to talk about movies. And I think that's this Signor thing has been terrible on that front, because it really has exposed like deep rooted corruption and disgusting behavior within parts of this community, and that people that just simply don't give a shit. Look at the Fandom Menace, guys like that. We all know how they operate. We all know who they are. We all know what they do. It becomes all encompassing, all consuming, just negativity. And you know what? I was reading up today on 28 Days Later. Forgot how much I love that movie. I got to find my copy, watch it again. That movie scared the shit out of me back when I first saw it back in 2003. And you know what? Coming up on 20 years since that movie's been made, that might be a fun one to dive into for a long form discussion with Podio commentary, and things along those lines. So there's that. So thank you all for listening to my TED Talk. All right, Ryan Hartwell here for 5 Bones. Thank you very much, Ryan. Says, off topic, Artemis is launching as we speak. They're finally going back to the moon. I have literally no idea what you're talking about. Is that a SpaceX thing? Is that a NASA thing? But we're going back to the moon, which is good, which is really good. I don't know why we left it for as long as we did. Has anyone been back to the moon? I know the Chinese were just last couple of years. We're talking about, this is true. They were talking about literally putting up advertisements on the moon. Like, they wanted to put the first billboard on the moon. Think about that. That would be a movie. The race to advertise on the moon, like, just like that could be a mockumentary in and of itself. The first billboard. Imagine if you could just imagine if you could get to the moon and you took a rover, or you took like a big ass rake, right? And you just like spent, I don't know, it'd probably be like a couple years probably on the light side of the moon, just like, doing some kind of like crop circle advertisement. You're just out there like stamping it all down, and because there's no wind on the moon. So if you make leave a trail, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just stagnant. It just stays. The footprint's eternal sort of thing. And you could get up there and create your own advertisement. Think about that. Like, every night people look up at the moon. Man, the moon is so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's so great. It's so beautiful. Oh my God, I love it. Oh, what's that? Oh, 2 for $1 at Chick-fil-A right now. Huh. Okay. Like, just imagine that being a movie. And then, of course, the cottage industry of people trying to get up there to over like it's graffiti on the moon, and then someone from like moon services has to get up there with a giant rake and just cover it up all the time. Oh, you goddamn kids. Something like that would be pretty funny. I think that'd be a pretty funny movie. I should probably write that. I should totally write that terrible concept. We got a $6.69 super chat here from our friend Shiny. Says here, just because. Oh, Shiny. Oh, thank you, Shiny. I really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. You guys are great. Agent Josh asking, have you been to the moon, Jarbo? No. No, I have not been to the moon. I would love to one day go to the moon. I think it'd be really cool. I think it'd be really, really, really cool to travel. I'll tell you what I want to do. Like, I realize that the older I get, I realize that the older I get, what I want to do is, like, I would love to absolutely head up to, like, the top upper echelon of our atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like low Earth orbit shit. Not because I don't think I'll ever be able to, like, fundamentally go into space, but I think low Earth orbit travel is something that could be a likelihood at some point in time. And then just to head up there and, like, cruise the curvature of the Earth. You know what I mean? Cruise a curvature of the Earth and be able to just enjoy that sight. I think that for me would be really, 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 really cool to do that, because today it was announced, well, I think yesterday even, that the world's population has officially reached 8 billion people. 8 billion people. 8 billion fucking people, folks. 8 billion people. That's a lot of fucking people. All right, because when I was born, 1982, 40 years ago, we had a population of just over 3 billion people. 1979 to 1999, that world population doubled. Then over the course of the next 22 years, or 23 years, really, we hit 2 more billion people. That's a lot of people. They're talking now like we might be at 9 or 10 billion people by 2050. You know, eventually something is going to give. Something is going to break. Something is going to change. I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that is. I do remember, and I'll be honest with you guys, when I was first hearing about COVID a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, my thought was like, well, that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to kill us all. You know, that's what's going to wipe out all of these people. It's going to, obliterate the population by 2 billion. Not that I want that or anything else, but it's just like, eventually the dam is going to break. And so it's like, what do you do? How do you combat it? Right? How do you keep people how do you create that buffer? How do you do that? Truth be told, I don't freaking know. Anthony here says, so Thanos was right again. I guess so. Spherical Man says, how many of those billion are Nick Cannon's kids? Between Nick Cannon and Elon Musk, I'm not too sure. There's definitely that. Garrick here says, colonize outer space. It's definitely an idea. But the question that becomes, Garrick, how do you colonize outer space? I don't quite know. Rational says it's going to decrease after Putin launches missiles at Poland. Putin, well, again, Biden has said that he doesn't believe that it was Russia that launched the missiles at Poland. And we don't know yet. Now, Trump was out there tonight saying that he thinks that people think, his way of saying it, like, people think that it was Putin firing off the missiles. That's my terrible Trump impersonation. So there's that. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is, like, we're stuck. We're kind of stuck here where we are right now. Progress will happen with any luck, and we'll be able to figure out a way for better sustainability. But Plushy here says no more reproduction. You know what it is, man? I'll tell you this. I'll be honest with you guys. I think this is kind of a factor. A lot of people out there, people out there, they want kids. All right. People, they know it's a biological human function to want to have kids. It's a biological human function to spread your seed. Lord knows I've spread enough of mine. I think I've single-handedly caused some deforestation, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm kidding. But I have my kids. I love my kids. I'm happy with the 2 that I have. I don't want 5 or 6 or 18. I'm not Nick Cannon. I for one, don't have the mental bandwidth half the time for the 2 I've got. When you're self-employed and you're doing everything else, it's very difficult. On top of worrying about paying your mortgage, paying your bills, putting gas in your car, food on your plate. There's a lot going on right now. It's crazy shit. Especially if you want to be a homeowner. A lakefront property not too far from me just sold for well over $780,000. When a luxury home 2 plots down from me 2 years ago or last year sold for $902,000. And I bought my house for $280,000 5 years ago. Right. And I'm like, okay, cool. My property values increased, which means that, my property taxes have increased, which then increases my monthly expenditures. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, guys, calm it the fuck down. But then the rest of the population's like, we be fucking. The only good thing about all the people out there that be fucking, that be populating, be having those kids, 8 billion people. You know what people like to be told, to kind of back on topic, to get it back around to where it needs to be? People out there like to be told stories. They like to be entertained. They like to spend their time getting their information from something called the Squawk Box or your phone or whatever. And that's where people like me come into play. People like me who like to talk, who like to be entertaining, who like to command attention. Because, you know, we're all self-absorbed egomaniac narcissists. It's how we do it. But I think the concept, though, of like having more people means more stories are going to be told. Funny enough, funny thing is, talking about today with like Zaslev, we'll talk a bit about that here in a few minutes. Then, of course, you had like the whole situation with Marvel Animation seeing some potential cutbacks. Bob Chapek himself talking about doing some cutting backs. I think Campia said Disney's currently like, you know, in free fall, or it's gonna crash and burn or things like that. I mean, we are in this weird paradigm shift, and I don't necessarily know if it's all going to be a massive affront to capitalism. I don't know if it's going to be an attack on capitalism or something along those lines. I know you have a lot of your online lefties, your online socialists that are like, down with capitalism, man. But I think we need to reevaluate how we do things. You know what I mean? Like, I think we need to reevaluate how we do stuff with everything. And I think once we do that, things might smooth out a bit. But right now, we're in a very weird space. But that's why I think one of the reasons why I do think that when it comes to the concept of entertainment, why entertainment is as important as it is, as a catalyst for catharsis. Okay. I think it's a catalyst for catharsis. What I mean is, like, look, we watch shows, we watch movies, we listen to podcasts, we listen to music, we read books, we read comics, we read graphic novels, we play video games, we do whatever. We do it as a way to escape. But not only that, it's a way to kind of reset our brain to allow ourselves to go into something else that we find enjoyment with, to gain endorphins and to get adrenaline and to feel something again. We do this. We're drawn to these stories inherently because they take us out of where we are. Not to say that where you are is bad or not good or anything else, but it just allows you a moment of respite, allows you a moment to escape, to move on, to move past. That now is more important than ever, because through that also sparks creativity, ingenuity, the imagination. And what we need is more of that and less of the cookie cutter bullshit that we see coming out of a multitude of these companies that are so deathly afraid of a new product, deathly afraid of something risque and something new and something unheard of and uncharted territory, that they will literally remake every little goddamn thing imaginable because they know that nostalgia alone might earn it a bit of cash. Put a brand new coat of paint on this fucking car that works perfectly fucking fine, and you might find yourself in a position to make a little bit of cash on top of your initial investment. It's ridiculous, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous that we are where we are in this particular world. It's like, look, bitch all you want about Netflix. They have done fucked up a lot, but they've also done a lot of really good things. And I think that them investing more in original movies is the right course of action, because that is something that is going to allow people to work. It's going to allow people to get paid to continuously make this content and to potentially push the boundaries. The problem with people like Warner's and Disney and Lionsgate and Sony is that they're just like, and Paramount, and they're just all, oh my God, we can't ever step outside of where we are. We have to 100% make sure that we are just going to keep sticking with everything, because if we don't, guys, if we don't keep moving, if we don't keep going back to the drawing board or going back to that well, we're never going to find success. We're never going to find anything, blah, 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 blah. We're never going to do all this shit, which is a load of crap. It's an absolute load of bullshit. But I have to say, one of the areas that has done really, really, really well in recent years, and this is something I want to touch upon real quick. I do see your super chat there, Garrick. I'll get to that here in a second. I'm just kind of on a rant. I'm kind of on a roll. I'm kind of on a tangent. I'm going to stick with it. But one of the things I've noticed in recent years, and I've talked about this, guys, is fucking horror, man. Horror is where it's at. Horror and anime, which interestingly enough are cut from the same cloth if you think about it, right? Anime speaks to, I don't quite get it, to be honest with you guys. I don't understand what it is about anime that gets a lot of people where they need to be in regards to that kind of stuff. I don't know. It doesn't do that for me. Not to say that I dislike it. We did an anime red pill night the other night, Had a lot of fun, saw some cool shit. Oh my God, that one nuclear atomic bomb scene is fucking haunting. Terrified. Thank you, Ryan. You gave me some nightmares, buddy. Love you. Thanks. But it's like horror, though. Horror speaks to the intrinsic skeptical nature that we have. It speaks to our fears, our very internalized fears, and it finds a way to externalize those in a short form approach that's meant to very much cultivate the senses. Right? It is. What did I call it? I called it something through catharsis. God damn it! I even forget my own cool thing. Right? Or whatever it is. I forget. One of you will probably tell me what it was. I was on a roll. I forgot about it. But it does. It allows us to kind of have safe moments of fear, safe moments of intrigue, safe moments of terror. And people out there like that kind of stuff, and they respond to it, which is one of the reasons why Smile, a movie with a very small budget, went on to do over $100 million domestic, I think $200 million worldwide, just hit Paramount Plus yesterday. Good, bad, or the other, man, it don't fucking matter. Horror makes cash. I've talked a lot about Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2, a $250,000 movie, $10 million at the US box office, spawned a brand new horror icon that people are absolutely fundamentally loving, even though there's not much there in regards to the overall story about why we like Terrifier, the series, and where exactly it's going. But it's the concept, the idea of plugging into those innate fears that we have. I don't want to say necessarily innate, but those underlying fears that we have about the unknown, especially about fucking clowns, because they're terrifying. But the reason why I find that to be fascinating, the reason why I find all that to be interesting, is because of the potentiality of not only storytelling, but it's inclusiveness, very inclusive. Horror is super inclusive, man, because it don't matter the color of your skin, the gender you identify as, or what religion you want to claim to be a part of. It doesn't matter. You can fucking die. And that unites all of us, if you think about it. If you think about it for a second, if you really want to dive into that concept, if we want to talk about the theoretical on this one, horror unites us. We all fear death. Let's be fair. We all fear death. We have one life on this planet. You may not be exactly where you want to be. You may feel jealous of somebody else who's further along than you. You might have been dealt a bad hand, and that's unfortunate. We all have our ups. We all have our downs. But the one thing we all can rely on, the one thing we all can agree on, is that death is inevitable, as are taxes, and it fucking sucks. We don't want to die. All right? We don't want to die. So because of that, we find horror interesting. We find horror fascinating, and it can tell us some of those stories and even tell us a thing about ourselves. To speak to that, Jess here says, thank you, Jess, for $5. Says, anime is a dream that people have. People with superpowered pets want real relationships bombed with robots and tech. Interesting way of looking at it, but let's talk about the imaginative part of that, right? Like, I remember when I first saw the trailer for Princess Mononoke. Really, really, really dug the trailer, sparked my interest, got the poster at Comic-Con, put it up on my wall. Absolutely love it. Absolutely adore that movie. Same with Spirited Away. That is my favorite Miyazaki film, my favorite Studio Ghibli film. I love those movies. Still don't like Howl's Moving Castle, but I need to give it a rewatch, I'll admit. But I agree with you. So anime is the dream. Horror is touching upon the underlying fears of society, whether it's wealth inequality, whether it is, of course, the othering of people. It's very inclusive, and it very much speaks to people, which is why I find it really fascinating, to get back onto the point here, that Walter Hamada has signed a multi-year production deal with Paramount Pictures to develop a range of horror films for the studio. Now, listen, folks, you may not be a fan of how Walter Hamada ran the DCEU for those couple years, and you know what? You're entirely okay to feel that way. You're absolutely all right to feel that way, folks. 100%. You can feel how you want to feel on that. But the one thing to consider about Hamada is he understands horror, and he understands how to touch into those innate underlying fears and how to convey them with his buddy, James Wan, who most likely will leave New Line and head on over to Paramount to work on these movies. But Paramount is really good at pumping out low budget horror films, but they need a new maestro behind the band. They need a new person in charge with a vision, a dream, an iota of how to get it done. Because as much as I enjoy the Paranormal Activity franchise, let's be fair, it's been a little bit right? It's been a little as time has gone on, you know what I mean? And so really what it boils down to here, folks, is that Hamada is now leaving where he probably should have never been in the first place, but he is going over to a place where he might do well. And of course, Darkness here says Hamada might redeem himself in Paramount. I completely agree. Ralph's Double Tits disagrees, says Hamada. But Rational here comes back in with the save, says mid to low budget horror is Hamada's wheelhouse. He should have never gone to DC. He did that, as far as I understand, because James Wan. He's really tight with James Wan, and he did that for that, right? Aladdin here says Hamada found a better job than dealing with DC fans. Hell yeah. Absolutely. H. Bart says Hamada ditches Sonic. Nope, he's only doing the horror films. H. Bart's. The horror films. But he's working on it. But he's definitely trying to do something with it. And I think with that will be okay. And I know Jason Blum over there on at Universal and Blumhouse is doing a lot as well. And I love me some Jason Blum. But I do feel that Blum needs to have some competition in the horror space. I think Blumhouse has gotten a little bit lazy recently. They're not as hard hitting or edgy, pushing the envelope as much as they used to. And perhaps this guy, Mr. Walter Francis Hamada, I'm calling everyone's middle name Francis, but Walter Francis Hamada might be able to come in and give him a run for that money. RJ here says, I don't get why people are mad or saying Paramount is doomed. He was always going to get another job, and he was working on horror. It's what he's best at. I think a great thing, Paramount. You think it's a great thing that Paramount wants horror. I agree. Horror, look, here's the thing with horror. Horror movies are cheap, but they can yield a large return. If you're able to tie it into a good cinematic universe or a good slasher or a good world or anything like that, you have the ability of building up something that can define a generation. In some respects, alter the culture and for horror, bring people in who aren't normally horror fans, and of course, get some of that sweet cheddar. Sweet cheddar. It is very much going to be, I think, a good thing for him. RJ here says, I love how everyone is acting like he's going to ruin Scream somehow, even though Paramount only distributes Scream. Well, the thing with that, though, is that he's not going to, why would he fuck with Scream, for one? Two, he is definitely at a space where like he can look at how Scream's been modeled, how Scream has over the past 25 years maintained its legacy, maintained its popularity, and build off of that. Spherical Man asks, did Blumhouse do the escape room movies? I think no, that was Sony, but they might have done it. But I know those came out through Sony, if I recall. But anyway, look, I'm very excited to see what Hamada brings to the table in regards to everything. So I think it's going to be okay here. So thank you guys for that. Though Garrick here for 5. Thanks, buddy. Says, so Critical Drinker and Chris Gore have a point with how bad Hollywood is, creatively speaking. So their approach, okay, I can't say that I know entirely what their approaches are because I don't listen to either of them. Old men yelling at clouds do not interest me on any fundamental, spiritual, metaphysical, or sexual way. This doesn't do anything for me. Dries me up faster than a nun in a strip club. All right. It does nothing for me. However, Hollywood on a creative level is at a situation right now where it needs to start scaling things down and broadening their horizons a little bit. If they want inclusivity and they want to find a way to speak to other marginalized groups in order to tap into that particular buying power of those groups, they need to do so in a way that is not going to come across as pandering. The problem with Hollywood is that they are kind of beholden to the narrative set forward by the media, and the media oftentimes plays into the pandering narrative simply because that's what they do. If it bleeds, it leads. They need clicks. They need revenue. They kind of control the narrative on that cycle. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that in any way, shape, or form. The way that I look at these particular guys is that they have become boomers yelling about anything that they can. I feel like Hollywood is not in a space where it is creatively bankrupt. I do think that they when it comes to television is largely not creatively bankrupt. They find a way to work with it over time. They find a way to like look at, to expand these shows and to build up the fan bases that they have. Movies have an inherent problem of being stuck, if you will, right? They have a 2-hour runtime in many instances, 90 minutes to 2 hours for the vast majority, to tell a story, beginning, middle, and end, to deliver on the promise of the premise, and to keep audiences entertained. If you're trying to build up a universe or build up a world, one of the best franchises to do it in a minimalistic way was actually Paranormal Activity. All right. Like Paranormal Activity did that by having like 1, maybe 2 lines of dialogue per movie explaining the larger narrative. And that was definitely something that a lot of people out there had a lot of problems with. It was something, I should say had a lot of problems with it because you'd want the story to do more. But I agree with you here, by the way. Critical Drinker and Chris Score basically teach you not to enjoy movies. Exactly. And okay, look, you guys know me well enough to know the 80 of you guys that are here, usually we get upwards of about 130 depending on the subject. By the way, Brandon Caterpillar, thank you for becoming a new member. I did see your super chat. I will get to that here as soon as this is over. But a new member, matinee member, motherfucker. Hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate that. Here's the thing with all that though, right? When it comes to teaching you to not enjoy movies, that is the antithesis to who I am as a person. Because what I love to do, what I love more than anything else in the world is to talk to you about something you may not be excited about, and then to get you excited about it, right? To get you hyped to see a movie. That was one of my favorite goddamn things about when I worked at the drive-in theater, man. When they put me in the box office and people would come on in, they'd be like, all right, so like, what's the movie that's coming out? What's this? What's this? What's this? And I'm like, all right, let me tell you about this movie. Like, and I would just talk to them about it. I would just talk with them about it, and I would just pimp them on an idea, pimp them on a concept, and I would get people excited to go in and watch the movie. And oftentimes people would exit, come back through, and they'd tell me, hey man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking me into seeing this movie. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And that tells me that, for one, I've done my job. I've done my job as a person who's not only a fan of entertainment, but a connoisseur of entertainment. I mean, cheap thrills is one thing I'm a big fan of, so on and so forth. But I'm a big fan of a lot of movies. It doesn't matter what they are. I just like movies, and I like to share that with people. I like to convey that. I like to give part of my energy to that, because why else would I want to talk about entertainment if I'm not fucking entertained? It's one of the stupidest things on the goddamn planet. Nick Winstead here says, try to hype us for Black Adam. Let me get a drink and I will. Ah, man. Why did I snap? I'm not doing a podcast recording. By the way, guys, I drank an energy drink and it kicked in. I had a long nap today, so like it's in. If you guys can't tell, I've been kind of going nonstop for 30 minutes. That's one of the reasons why. But if you're entertained, smack on the like. Hit it. All right. Let me hype you for Black Adam, okay? Let me see if I can do this here. Here's what I think about Black Adam, all right? If you want to get into a story, like, oh, let me start that over again. I'd be like, okay, I'd ask you, this is how I'd probably start it. Are you a fan of the DCEU? And then they'd go, well, what movies are those? I'm like, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Shazam, Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, those kind of movies. Oh, yeah, those are okay. All right, here's the thing. Do you like The Rock? Yeah, his movies are fine. Okay, in this movie, The Rock is playing a guy named Teth Adam. He's 5,000 years old. Okay, he's a champion of conduct. This dude was brought in to shut down oppression, to just wipe it out. Evil king, slavery, all the bad stuff, okay? But then he ends up getting trapped by a whole bunch of wizards, because I don't quite know yet. You got to watch the movie, and he wakes up at a time when he's needed again because the bad guys are trying to resurrect an evil demon to take over Kahndaq and then potentially rule the world. So here comes Black Adam, this guy with the ultimate abilities of Superman if he's got magic. And then he's going to be teamed up with the Justice Society. Now, you may not know who they are, but that's like Hawkman, right? Dude who can fly, he's got big ass hawk wings. You got Atom Smasher, who's basically just like, giant to small type dude, but he's pretty cool. Then you've got Cyclone, who can like basically like use wind and whatever. She's like a wind kinesis person. I forget the exact terminology for it. Then you got Dr. fucking Fate. Pierce Brosnan. That's all I got to say about that. Like Bond, right? Bond was good. Hell yeah. Pierce Brosnan. You all know him. Remington Steele, motherfucker. Exactly. Not only does it have a pretty good soundtrack, uses Rolling Stones painted black in a pretty unique way. There's some really good cinematography. The soundtrack, like the score, is actually really, really, really good. The only downside is I think the plot maybe is a little bit light, but at the end of the day, the action is pretty much fire, and it is The Rock doing what The Rock does. Plus, do you miss Henry Cavill? I'm not telling you he's in the movie or nothing like that, but stick around for the end credit scene. That's kind of how I would hype it if I were to do that. It might be a little bit different. It might be a little bit on the different side, but that's kind of what I would do. You know, I would things like that. You know, but see, the thing is though, is like I could ask questions and I could feed off their answers and I could build it and build it and build it and build it from there. That's a lot of what I wanted to do with it. Would be, when you can interact with somebody, when you can look them in the eyes and you can feed off their energy, you can sell them on something. And that's something I was really, really good at that. Ralph Stapletons here says Jarbo bent the knee to The Rock and bought the Zoa. I actually, no, I don't, I do not drink Zoa. I'm having a Rockstar Zero Carb, simply because of all that. But anyway, that is how I would do it. If you, Ryan here says, my answer to the man in the theater, I appreciate your pitch, but I'm really just trying to go to the bathroom. Well, yeah, that's happened as well. I get going, but I mean, I get a lot of people who seem to care. We got, Andrew Dunbar for a 5-month, Prime membership. Thank you. That's a $5 a month membership. Thank you very much, Andrew. Says hype Rocky for me, Jarbo. Hype Rocky. Oh my God. All right. Holy shit. How do I hype a movie I haven't seen? That's going to be the tough thing. Okay. I can try. Garrick, I saw your super chat. Let me just do this one real quick. We'll get to the other two that are there before moving on. But, all right. If I was going to hype Rocky, I'd be like, okay. I'd ask him, how do you feel about underdog stories? You like underdog stories, right? And they'd be like, yeah, I like underdog stories. Imagine this. Boxer down on his luck, just trying to provide for his wife, Adrian. You know, he gets this grand, great ability to go into this fight, but it's against all odds. It's absolutely against all odds. Is this where he fights Apollo Creed? I don't know who's the bad guy in the movie, but he's up against all odds. He's got Mickey. He's got the coach. He's beating his meat, literally beating some meat in order to like learn how to overcome his own fears and to rise up to the challenge of taking on this professional boxer so he can provide for his family. He can be the winner. You know, he's the music dun 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 dun. That's Rocky, man. That's fucking Rocky, dude. He's this guy. He fights a guy, Adrian. Like, you know, I don't even know how to. I haven't seen the movie. You're asking me to hype something I haven't seen. I've never seen the fucking movie. Isn't Eye of the Tiger from Rocky 3, right? That's from Rocky 3, right? I don't know, man. I like, you want me to hype something up that I've never done before. So let's see here. Nerdy Mastermind says it's really boring. So if you don't have NyQuil, watch Rocky. I don't know. I have no effing idea about that stuff, guys. I really don't. So it's hard to hype something I've never seen. It's also hard to hype something that I may not be the biggest fan of. So there's that, right? Eye of the Tiger is from Rocky 3. Okay. No, I wasn't doing Eye of the Tiger. I didn't do Eye of the Tiger. I knew it wasn't the first Rocky. So, I'm just saying, but it's fun. It's fun to try to hype movies. It's fun to try to talk about them. Even if like my goal is to never dissuade you from seeing something. We might disagree about it. Okay. But like, I'm very excited to see where things are going to go with any movie, with any property, because otherwise, why the fuck am I here? I don't watch movies to be bored. I don't watch movies to like not have a good time. You have to do it. You have to have a good time here. So Brendan Caterpillar for 2 bones, thanks buddy, says Ray Fisher is jobless. Well, meanwhile, Hamada is booked. That's not actually true about Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher is finishing up his work on Rebel Moon. I think he's already done filming it, but like he'll have obviously pickups, things like that. So he still has work to do on the movie. And then he's also on Broadway right now. And so he's working. His theatrical debut, his entertainment industry outside of Broadway reputation might take a little bit of time to get going again. But he is currently working, and good for him. Look, I might be critical of Ray Fisher quite a bit, but I don't want the guy to not work. I think he's a great actor. I just think he's also a bit of a diva. That's just that's my take on it. But anyway, thank you very much for that one. Garrick here for $5. Thank you. Says, why don't we see any more comedies? I love movies like Office Space, Death to Smoochie, and The Truman Show, but we don't see these movies anymore. Well, we really don't. They do some on like comedy. They do. The thing is, I think, I really feel that the reason why we're not seeing as many comedies anymore is because there are a lot of comedians that are really afraid to anger people. I think there are people out there, for people who are trying to, for comedy. I mean, look at the Dave Chappelle, monologue that he had the other night, man. That him hosting SNL brought in 4.8 million live viewers. They don't get that kind of shit anymore. They haven't gotten that kind of play in a while. So his 15-minute monologue was absolutely, it was hysterical too. I watched it last night. But again, a lot of people out there are mad at Dave Chappelle, but you know what? Chappelle can command an audience. There's a reason why Kevin Hart still gets movies, because he's got an audience of people who like him. I think comedies we can see a comeback again, but I think the kind of comedies that I think we want like elevated humor, not like pretentious, smarmy humor, but like humor that isn't just dick and fart jokes all the time. I think it's stuff like The Hangover, I think, was the last real great comedy. And that was a long time ago. There's been other good ones, like the Neighbors movies are pretty good. I'm trying to remember the last time I went to go see a comedy in theaters. That's the thing, is the theatrical experience has changed so much that we are now more in a space of trying to, the people only go to the theaters for like the bigger releases or horror or something along those lines. But comedies aren't really selling it anymore, but I just recently rewatched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is a small $5 million feature from like 20 years ago. I laughed my ass off at that movie. I forgot how much I fucking loved My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It was so funny, so full of heart, such a good movie, So it's like, I think those kind of movies can come back. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get there. Here, Spherical Man says, we are getting a new Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. That will be fascinating. I'm very excited for that one. Let's see here. Command Unit for $2. Hype Hell's Reach. Oh my God. Dude, that movie was so fucking long. I barely remember I remember the idea of what Hell's Reach was. I could not tell you any of their names outside of the Recusey arc, and I don't even know which character that is. Is that the main guy? Was he the Recusey arc? Was it his boss? I don't even know, man. That's a hard one to do because that was like so long. I know it's been like 2 months since we did it, but it's like, it's really been like, I'd never really gotten into a thing like that before. So I don't remember all the info. I'm sorry. I don't think I can hype it the way you want me to. I really, okay, I'll try. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll try. I will try if I possibly can. Okay. So, all right. Imagine a world on the brink of war. What we're talking like fucking like orcs versus like humans and like space marines and shit. It's a crazy ass world. Right? The humans are fighting for the emperor. The emperor oversees everything. The orcs are the bad guys. And they send in this team, because knowing that like this planet Hell's Reach is going to fall, essentially, they're sending in this team to basically die. They're suicide squatting these people. And they go on in there and like, it's up to the main guy who is like the Recusey arc, the dude in charge, to like kind of figure it all out, even though he knows that like he's basically being sent to his death for doing a good job within his squad. His boss is like, fuck you, you're going to go die. So he's got to go down and figure out a way to survive and help his team survive, while also like unifying other people in the region to fight for themselves and him as well. Then like there's like some big orc battles, and there's like sword play, and there's One Russian guy who's like, I want to find my wife. You know, I go, hopefully I survive, and she comes and marries me. But then she doesn't, and that part's kind of sad, but it's still like, it's a nice little side story, humanizes the characters quite a bit. There's like some weird like telekinesis people, I think, and a lot of blood and violence, man. Like, yeah, check it out. It's like only 2.5 hours. I don't know, man. I don't know. That one, I probably fucked that one up there. Gary here says, hype the Lorax. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. Hype the Lorax. Okay. You know, okay, hold on. I'm going to hype it, but I'm going to hype it in an alternate way. Be like, hey, did you like How the Grinch Stole Christmas from 2000? The Jim Carrey one? Have you heard of the Lorax? It's fucking nothing like that. The Jim Carrey movie was great. This movie is so bad, it's actually good to get drunk and high and watch it. Let me explain. For one, do you like everything looking like it's super shiny and made of balloons? Well, that's the world that they live in. You've got Zac Efron playing the main guy who's got a huge crush on the girl next door who's voiced by Taylor Swift. So if you're a Swiftie, or if you've always just found her to be unreasonably attractive for some whatever reason, you can then listen to her voice. Danny DeVito effectively plays a version of himself, but he's the Lorax who's trying to help out the Onceler, voiced by Ed Helms. The bad guy's voiced by Rob Riggle, so you know that's good. If you've ever been a fan of the Daily Show, you get a bit of Rob Riggle, or Ed Helms from The Office. You get a bit of that too. You know, Danny DeVito talking about like environmental things. I mean, you just get really, I can't do it. I can't think of a good thing to say about that fucking movie, dude. I can't think of a good thing to say about that fucking movie. It's just, it is unfathomably terrible. I can't do it. I just can't. I can't do it. I'm not bashing Taylor Swift. I mean, I would smash Taylor Swift. That's a different story though. Anyway, let's see. All right. Okay. Let's move on. There's like 2 more things I want to talk about. We've got hearing the news today that Kevin Smith is apparently planning on making Red State 2, which is a little crazy. If you haven't seen Red State, it was like it was, I would argue, very experimental for him back in 2012 when it came out. This movie is one that he made for only $4 million. It was an idea that they came up with, I think, while working on the Smodcast podcast. And it was something he wanted to do that was just so fundamentally different than literally anything else he had ever done. He's known for dick and fart jokes, but he wanted to tell the story about a crazy cult of religious fanatics. And he had some really good actors in this. John Goodman was in it. You had Ray Park, Ray Park. That's who it is. It's Ray. What's his name? It was Michael Parks, who unfortunately passed away a while ago. He did such a good job in the movie too. So this is what he says here. He says the good folks at Lionsgate who financed his fucking motion picture Clerks 3, they put out the Red State DVD like years ago, and the deal lapsed. And the people that own Red State, 2 financiers, weren't from the world of film. One was from the world of fashion. One was a Canadian financier, not even in the world of film. So when Lionsgate reached out about renewing, they got no response back from the copyright holders. I could tell them as much as I wanted till I was blue in the face, like, no, renew it, but I didn't own it. They did. So it just fell into a spam folder and fell out of circulation. Because we did this movie Clerks 3, we're talking, we were talking to go to home video. Wait, we were talking to go home video. Okay. Lionsgate's like, hey man, how come you guys wouldn't re-up Red State with us? And I was like, they still didn't get back to you? Lionsgate goes, no, we've been trying for fucking years. So we put it all back together and shit. So then he says like, he says, then they were like, well, if we do this, would you do it again? And I was like, yeah, in a heartbeat. I mean, obviously Michael Parks is gone, but it's just a story of crazy people with guns and shit like that. As long as I could use John Goodman again, I could make 100 fucking Red States. And I'm like, let's do it. So we're going to make one. Like, that's it. That's Kevin Smith going like, yeah, Lionsgate made a lot of money off of Red State when it came out back in 2012. And the movie, again, had such a small budget, only $4 million, and he actually got the budget for that movie by locking down pre-release sales in foreign territories. That was actually how he financed a bunch of his movies back in the day. That's why they're like $4 to $6 million budgets. They're super, super, super cheap to make, but he gets it by pre-selling the DVD rights to other foreign territories because he's got a big following in those territories, and that's how he gets the money. But the fact that two financiers, one was a Canadian fashion person and the other one was not even involved in the movie, in the world of film, they wanted like they just ignored it. That to me is great. But the way I would say this though, I'm ready. I'm ready for more Kevin Smith commentary on crazy far right wing politics, because now think about where we are. Think about what happened today. Donald Trump announcing his second attempt at being the president. Well, third attempt actually, after the unsuccessful election in 2020. The fact that you've got the January 6th committee that's getting ready to wrap things up here in the next couple months. You've got certain people involved in the insurrection from almost 2 years ago, basically being charged with like sedition to an extent. I mean, it is so crazy. If all these election deniers that just lost their bid to win election in a lot of these key states, and how the election deniers are basically trying to steal another election. I mean, you could do a lot with this in a way that could satirize the whole thing and make it really, really interesting. And if you bring in some good actors like John Goodman and other people like that, I think, and Kevin Smith, it would really get him to expand his acting or his directing chops. I think Clerks 3 was amazing. I love Clerks 3. I think he was able to get a really good performance out of both Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson. And like, even when I met Brian O'Halloran a couple of years ago, I got to tell him how much Clerks meant to me and everything else. And it's like, when I say Kevin Smith is my personal hero, dude, this is the shit that I'm fucking talking about, man. This is the shit that I'm talking about. You may not like his movies, and that's perfectly fucking fine. But the guy doesn't stop. The guy doesn't really play by anyone's rules. He goes out there and he does what he wants to do, and he finds a way to get it done. And if it's a lower budget, cool. If it fails, cool. He'll go back to the drawing board and he'll do it again. But he doesn't lie to his audience. He doesn't treat his audience like shit. He tries. He consistently tries. He gets knocked down. He gets back up. He might cry while watching Black Panther 2. Jesus Christ, it's an emotionally charged movie. At the end of that thing, you probably would feel pretty emotional. I teared up watching Clerks 3. I didn't fucking post any images of my tears, but I definitely had them welling up in the corners of my eyes. And that's because that movie meant something to me. It spoke to me. It did its fucking job. So I am very excited to see what's going to happen with this thing. Nate here says no one is ever going to keep him down. Goddamn right. Goddamn right. Ryan here says too, Red State to the campaign. Pretty much. Garrick asking them, why does the fandom menace hate him? They started hating him because of the whole Clownfish TV going after He-Man after it was announced. And like, oh, it's like the Tila show. And the thing was, he responded and clapped back. And they ran with it and ran with it and ran with it as this whole thing. And that's what it was. It was just circling the wagons and defending your own and things like that. That's all it really was. We need a Jersey Girl too. No, we do not. No, we absolutely positively do not. Andrew here says, who doesn't quit? Rocky. There you go. There you have it, folks. Rocky doesn't quit. Rocky, hey, Rocky. Oh my God. All right. You know what though? Here's the thing. All right. I'll talk about this real quick. So I saw this. I wanted to bring this one up. So look, one of the things, we were talking about earlier is about Critical Drinker and Chris Bohr attacking movies today. Well, here's the thing is Tarantino kind of agrees with them, right? Tarantino says that the current era of movies is one of the worst ever. Now, this is a guy who, if he says it, I have a tendency of standing beside it. And I'll tell you why I do. That's because for well over 30 years, Tarantino has been a force of fucking nature. Tarantino has been the guy that all film students fucking recite like the goddamn Bible. Everyone loves Tarantino. He is just uniquely creative. And if he is looking at the current state of where things are and he is commenting on that, a guy who unabashedly loves movies to the point of where he bought a single screen theater in Los Angeles called the New Beverly when it was down on its financial luck after supporting the theater financially for quite some time to keep it open, has it now where they just did a 35 millimeter screening of Shrek the other day. They run movies all the time and they're all 35 millimeter, some new movies, some old movies, grindhouse films, personal collections owned by Tarantino. I think they just screened his personal copy of Reservoir Dogs the other day, which would be amazing to see because I know that it would be pristine as fuck. And I would love to watch his personal copy of that. That to me would be something that would be off the bucket list. You know what I mean? If like, oh yeah, here's Tarantino's personal copy of Pulp Fiction, I'd be like, oh baby, oh yeah, just give it to me, right? So if Tarantino was criticizing the current state of Hollywood, you can trust that a bit more than where everything else is, because Ryan here is 100% correct. He loves movies. Exactly. He loves movies. He loves to be entertained. He loves all of that shit. All right. Ryan Hartwell here says, I have great respect for Tarantino. Absolutely. Ralph Stebble Tits here says, I trust him more than some random on YouTube. Like, who the hell is Chris Gore? He made a movie called My Big Dumb Internet or Independent Movie, or My Big Fat Independent Movie. Or, I don't know. It's easily early 2006. All right. The Watcher here says, I respect Tarantino more than Scorsese or James Cameron, though. Well, there you go. There you go. Ralph here says, at least he loved Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I mean, Tarantino doesn't hate movies, but this is what he says here. In a recent episode of his and Roger Avery's The Video Archives podcast, in which they discussed the 1983 film Star 80, Tarantino took time to not only bash the 1980s and the 1950s in terms of cinematic output, but also the current era, saying even though the 80s was a time that I probably saw more movies in my life than ever, at least as far as going out to the movies was concerned, I do feel that 80s cinema is, along with the 50s, the worst era in Hollywood history, matched only by the current era. And he says the current era, of course, is a host to wave of superhero movies, which Tarantino has gone on record as saying any hired hand could direct. All right. But and he's not wrong. I mean, a lot of those movies, especially Marvel films, are rather homogenized. The most unique perspective to come to the Marvel movies, in my opinion, has been Sam Raimi with Doctor Strange. It's the most unique that landed. Taika Waititi with Thor Ragnarok came close. I still haven't seen the Eternals yet, so I'm sorry. Miss Sunset Chloe Zhao. I haven't watched it yet. I know H. Bartz, he keeps calling it a masterpiece. I will sit down and watch it. But really, Ryan Coogler even didn't miss the mark visually speaking when it came to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, focusing more on an overbloated 3-hour funeral rather than something that could establish the same emotional resonance and maybe a bit of a shorter runtime. But anyway, the article here goes on to say, still, Tarantino does say that spans with so much garbage do give an edge to the ones that don't conform, the ones that stand out from the pack. Naturally, Tarantino doesn't hate every movie that's out, and so few would fall under the blanket of standing out. For example, he loved both Top Gun Maverick and Spielberg's West Side Story, saying they provided a true cinematic spectacle, the kind that I'd almost thought I wasn't going to see anymore. It was fantastic. He also enjoyed some recent horror like Crawl and Dr. Sleep. Dude, I haven't seen Dr. Sleep yet. Crawl was great. I had a lot of fun watching Crawl. Crawl was a lot of fun. The thing is, though, you can tell like Tarantino, I think what it is when it comes to Tarantino, if you want my honest opinion, yeah, he's explained more in detail on podcasts. I know he has. It's not that the 80s don't suck. The 80s has a lot of trash. All right. The 80s has an absolute lot of trash. Not to say that it's like bad trash. Okay. But it's like the 80s was a very experimental time. The same with the 1950s. That's what I think a lot of what he's talking about. There's big concepts, some swings, some misses, things like that. But like they were, the 50s and the 80s had massive growth in film. And the current stage right now is not having that. It's mostly just superhero stuff. Was it Ryan here says, yep, tons of crap in the 80s, also some great classics. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's tons of crap in the 80s, but there's some great classics. Like, look, there's a movie I love from the 80s called Let's Get Harry that stars Mark Harmon and Robert Duvall and Gary Busey and Thomas Wilson, Biff from Back to the Future. And basically the story is Mark Harmon plays Harry, who is an engineer down in South America working on an aqueduct who gets kidnapped by terrorists. The U.S. government does nothing to save him. So his friends from a little like podunk town in Pennsylvania, getting funded by a used car salesman played by Gary Busey, hire a former Marine or Navy SEAL played by Robert Duvall to lead an expedition into South America to get Harry. The movie is so bad in many ways. The director is Alan Smithee. If you know anything about who Alan Smithee is, you know what I'm talking about here. I love that goddamn movie. But it's like, again, it came out in the 80s and shit like that. It's a weird movie that something like that you really wouldn't get made today. All right. Watcher here says, name 5 great films that came out this year. To the chat. Top Gun Maverick, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, X, Black Phone. The Black Phone was fucking amazing. Weird Al. That movie was really good. The Batman. Jess here says the 80s pushed out movies like it was nothing. Now, if it doesn't make 100 million on the first week, no one talks about it. I mean, that's very true. It's very true. Garrick here says the 80s also had the lamest Best Picture winners. Amadeus is the only amazing one. Yeah, it is, you know. Darcipio here says 70s and 80s are the greatest era for great films. I mean, I would argue the 90s. Look at 94. You have Clerks, you have Pulp Fiction, you've got Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption. I mean, 94 slapped hard. But Meta here, man, Meta brings it up, dude. 98 Zilla, top tier, best 90s movie. Roland Emmerich's Godzilla from 1998, baby. Anyway, I love Tarantino. Yes, Ryan, I would like to read his book. I haven't read it yet, but I do like Tarantino quite a bit. And that is just one of the reasons why I think Tarantino is the GOAT. And I feel bad that I still haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, I know. All right. Let's see here. Garrick also then brings up 99. Matrix, Fight Club, Office Space, etc. Well, there was also 10 Things I Hate About You. There was The Mummy. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, right? A lot of movies came out. Oh, She's All That came out actually in early 99. So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there came out in 99, man. Gotta love it. Rational here says 90s is the only decade with no Superman. That's very true. I mean, we did have the Lois and Clark show. That was a thing. But speaking of Superman and speaking of a person who probably believes that the last time we saw Superman was the 1990s, David Zaslav. So in an interview, as we hit 100 people watching, officially an hour and 3 minutes into the show, thank you guys. Be sure to smack the like if you haven't already. It really does help keep things moving. And I really appreciate everyone who watches because there's a lot of great things to talk about here tonight. Been a fun show nonetheless. So it says here, David Zaslav on DC Rising, ad market tanking, HBO's losses, and Warner Brother Discovery's new streaming blah, 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 blah. Now, look, you guys don't care about most of this shit. And to be fair, neither do I. All right. So, look, he's admitting here that Warner Brothers Discovery is having a hard time. He says it was much more challenging than we thought. You opened up the closet, things fell out. We're fixing them. Some assets are better than we thought at the core. The talent is better than we thought, but there's a lot that that was unexpectedly worse than we thought. For me, I don't want to buy a company that is really well run. It's hard to make it better. So every day we open a closet, something comes out, the chief executive said during a wide-ranging keynote conversation at the RBC Media Conference touching on the streaming rethink, overpriced sports, challenge advertising, DC leadership, theatrical windows, and linear television. So going into streaming, because they kind of just summarize stuff here, he says the company has a chance to remake it. The business logic behind streaming has been irrational, with companies spending massively on content for low-fee products that didn't end up attracting enough subscribers to make them profitable. That's become a clear in a stream of financials this year. Consumers churn in and out. Right now, we can get 30 million people with Euphoria, but they come in for 2 months, watch Euphoria, and then leave. Do we create incentives for the people to be there? There are a lot of companies that have a business where the majority of people are there for the year. Now, I wonder how much of that has to do with the bundles that they've been trying to push. HBO Max was heavily pushing a bundle at a discounted rate. Disney is getting ready to increase their pricing with their new ad tier model. And they're demanding that I provide them with my date of birth and my gender to continue streaming, which I think is ridiculous. And part of me doesn't want to give it to them just based on fucking principles. Like, you don't need to have my data for this. I don't plan on getting the ad version of this. I'm going to pay for the ad-free version of this. Therefore, you don't need that information from me. And if you block me from streaming because I won't provide you with my gender, that's kind of ridiculous. And I think that's stupid as all hell. But anyway, he says HBO spent 2.5 billion on content in 2019 and made 2.5 billion that year. Last year, he said it spent almost 7 billion on content and lost 3 billion, saying, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. Going on to say all those direct-to-streaming movies just thrown right on top. I mean, yeah, they didn't really bring in a lot of people. He says, our whole library went on HBO Max. We weren't selling any of it, but it was all on there. We looked and we said, most of that is not being watched, or we don't think anyone is subscribing because of this. We could sell it non-exclusively to somebody else. Now, that's kind of the thing when it comes to the content. This is what Sony's doing, by the way. Sony doesn't want to have their own streaming service, but they will gladly license the content non-exclusively to somebody else or exclusively for a higher profit or a higher price tag for them. So that's kind of what they're working on. And I get why they want to do that, but the way he did it without communicating it to the talent, to the powers that be, and to the talent, it's kind of ridiculous. Oh, the watcher here says, I got that email from Disney. Is that real? A lot of people are saying it's a scam. I mean, it came from Disney. I'm not going to do nothing about it till they give me shit, to be fair. So I'm not going to touch that shit at all until like they lock me out, and then I'm like, okay, now I know it's real. But anyway, going into talking about theatrical windows, Zaslav's a fan. He says, I've seen the data. A movie opens in theaters, performs 5 times as well as when it goes directly to streaming. The economic return when you open something in the theater, direct to streaming, was just a way to drive subscribers, to drive the share price. Subscribers today are like clicks in the 90s. People were running around buying companies and aggregating clicks. I mean, like, I don't think it's that simple. I really don't think it's that simple. I think one of the things to consider here is that there's a lot of options. And with the rising cost of everything else and the fact that these companies kind of seem to do more of a scatter shot rather than niche down on certain content, that's kind of what's going on here. And I think that's the hardest part for the streaming services is that, like, again, space the shit out. Netflix is going to have to come to that determination very fucking soon. But that's their own problem here. We'll have to wait and see what happens though. But talking about DC, he says it's a hugely undervalued asset. Disney did a wonderful job with Marvel. If you look at Marvel and DC 10 years ago, you would have said DC is as good or better. 10 years ago? No. I mean, that would have been like right before Man of Steel. So that would have been like right after The Dark Knight Rises and right after Green Lantern. Both of those movies were largely hit or miss, depending on who you talk to. Whereas Marvel in 2012 had the Avengers. So I mean, I get what he's trying to say, but at the same time, he's kind of dumb. It says here, but Marvel is a connected universe. It has a Bible. The key was having one person following everything. All of Marvel is one place. You don't wake up and find that there has been a Batman TV show someplace. Well, again, he's kind of right and kind of wrong. There was a separation of church and state in regards to Marvel Studios and Marvel Television. Marvel Television was overseen by Jeff Loeb, who worked largely with Ike Perlmutter, putting out shows like The Runaways or, The Inhumans, or, I don't know, Cloak and Dagger, or, I don't know, fucking Hellfire, whatever the hell, Hellfire, whatever that show was that like lasted like no time. There was a lot of shows that weren't connected. Also, the Marvel Netflix shows weren't connected because there was a fallout between the studios and the television side of things. And they ended up not overlapping with one another. But now that's all under the Kevin Feige banner, which is one of the reasons why we are now seeing a lot of those connectivities. David Zaslav is not talking about the penny pinching aspect of that which caused a lot of the problems. David Zaslav is very much more like Ike Perlmutter than he is Bob Iger. And I think we need to come to terms with that. I think he needs to come to terms with that. And again, to look at the history of someone like Ike Perlmutter and how he, through his stupidity, his stubbornness, his cheapness, almost tanked the Marvel brand. If it would have been Bob Chapek running Disney when Kevin Feige and Ike Perlmutter were having it out, I don't think Chapek would have backed Kevin Feige. I think he would have backed Iger, or he would have backed Perlmutter. Iger had the foresight to understand how talented and amazing Kevin Feige is, and that you want to foster that talent rather than getting it boondocked by a whole bunch of fucking red tape. That's the problem here. That's the issue when it comes to someone like David Zaslav. He's very much an Ike Perlmutter, and I think if you just pay attention to any of that, you are really going to understand it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans are still a bit salty. Yeah, you know what? They have every right to be there. They have every right to be upset at that. 100%, guys, 100%. Anyway, moving on here. It says here that DC is one of the biggest opportunities. This company, our company, is a creative company. So we found two great guys, filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran, started as studio co-chairs this month. You will see a lot of growth around DC. We haven't done a Superman movie in 13 years. The idea is to drive the hell out of DC, which is what they're going to do. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is coming in 2023. I don't know why that's so weird. Shazam 2 comes first. And then it's Aquaman. No, and then it's Flash. And then it's Flash. And then it's going to be Aquaman, whatever, man. Like, why is it? Here's my thing, guys. I just want to say this right quick. Why is it that that Shazam is just getting like turned into the redheaded fucking stepchild? Like, why is that the case? Why is that happening? That bothers me. That bothers me to my fucking core. That Shazam is just getting shafted once again. No one knows what to do with that fucking property. No one there knows what to do with that fucking property. But Shazam is one of the better films to come out of DC. Period. Point blank. I can't wait for Shazam 2. It's just fucking sad, man. It's just fucking sad. So, Adnan here says, although he said 10 years ago, he's right. DC as a brand was on par with or better than Marvel 15 years ago. But Marvel has had 14 years of having the MCU. Okay. 14 years of having the MCU. We're talking like nearly a decade and a half. All right. It has redefined the boundaries of success. It has absolutely redefined how we view movies, how we view tentpoles, how we view studios, how we view all of these things. DC was like, yeah, let's do Batman Begins in 2005 because we need to do something with Batman. And we're going to bring in a relative nobody with Chris Nolan and do this movie. And it's a banger. Fucking love Batman Begins. Then 2006 rolls around and they're like, all right, let's reboot Superman. So they give us Superman Returns, which is a movie that not a lot of people liked at the time. And even now, I actually have grown quite fond of Superman Returns, and I enjoy the movie immensely for what it is. That being said, not a lot of people really fucking liked it. And that's one of the reasons why the next outside Batman movie we got was, 5 years later with Green Lantern, another unmitigated disaster that even its own creative team has largely distanced themselves from. The only real saving grace in regards to DC in the past 14 years would be 2008's The Dark Knight, which is unequivocally top tier superhero content that even Marvel has had a hard time topping, if at all. Okay, that movie is just, it's sex, okay? It's pure sex. It's money, baby. It's fucking money. But other than that, if you look at their lineup, a lot of it around that time was not great. Man of Steel came out literally 5 years after Iron Man 1. And it went up against Iron Man 3 that same summer. And Iron Man 3 was $1.1 billion. Whereas Man of Steel was like $668 million. Okay. BVS, $857 million the next year. Not 3 years later, bogged down by a terrible theatrical cut that only hurt the movie's box office standing. You can't this is where just I understand the argument you want to make, but if you just take a second and remove yourself from like anything that's Zack Snyder related, and you look at it as a whole, in no way was it as good or better. In no way. Because they were always deathly afraid of what Marvel had accomplished, and they rushed to play catch up, and they shot themselves in the foot as a result. Let's see. Asking about the Flash and the update. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything. So with any luck, we'll get more. Let's see. William here says, had Zaslav been in charge when Shazam had been proposed under his watch, it probably would have been rejected. I completely agree. It absolutely would have been. It would have been like, who? No one cares about Shazam. So there's that. But anyway, guys, that's kind of what I've got. If you guys have any final questions, it's almost midnight here. I do have to try to wind things down because the kids have got to be up in a couple hours to go to school today. Because it's been kind of an off day. Everything else. Okay, sorry, I heard something there. Yeah, so let's see. All right, Meta here says, which is why creatively I think DC is screwed. I have no faith in Zaslav because of that fact. I mean, there's that. Oh, the video super chat, the thing you said. Okay, well, yeah, we can do that real quick. We can do that. Although you said $100 on Max's stream, and there's been no $100, buddy. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna remind you. You did promise me $100 on the other stream, and you have yet to deliver on that promise, sir. So I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out. All right. You want me to do something for you? You guys scratch my back too. I said H parts will spot. No, you didn't. Not at first. You tried coming back in. I'm not gonna hype Bumblebee. No. I care too much about my own mental capacity. All right. I don't know what this is. All right, take a look at this here. All right. So let's see. So the Batman is fucked. No. The Batman is its own thing. But they're not going to do four. They're not going to do four more Batman. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to get four Batman. So there's that.
聊地方。
来，让我们拍张合影吧！耶！记得去我朋友圈。Now, you can thank me later.
You guys ready?
Call of Duty.
我觉得那个老外超棒的。
我觉得还好。
That was pretty funny. I like Chris Evans quite a bit. I always have. Really, I've always been a big fan of his ever since I saw, what was it? What was the first thing I ever saw? Oh yeah, Not Another Teen Movie. That was over 20 years ago. That was 21 years ago. Holy shit. So long, guys. So long. Anyway. All right. On that note, guys, I got to wrap it up because I also just got the message that one of my cats, my last remaining cat, has actually not come inside yet for the evening. And it's cold outside right now. It's 30 degrees. So that's not good. She's also like fucking like 15 years old, 16 years old. So I'm a little bit on the concerned side. So I got to go check on her, everything else. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Appreciate everyone for coming on by tonight. Have yourself a great evening wherever you are. Remember, folks, it's just movies. Movies are meant to be fun. Anyone out there who's telling you that you shouldn't like a movie or you shouldn't enjoy things, fuck them. Fuck them in their stupid fucking faces. You know why? Because if you're entertained, then you're entertained. In the meantime, I'll talk to you guys all later. Thanks again for the support. Have yourself a great night. Peace out.